Siesta Key Beach in Florida is a slice of paradise. Soft white sand, glowing turquoise waters, and gentle waves that lull tourists into vacation bliss. Among its rows of luxurious resorts and Airbnb condos stood a smaller, older boutique hotel called the Coral View Inn. It wasn't glamorous, but it was charming in its own way. Faded pink walls, an old neon sign, and palm trees that creaked when the wind picked up. In the summer of 2014, the Sanders family, Aaron, Mark, and their 6-year-old son, Caleb, were looking for a quick beach escape from the bustle of Tampa. Aaron found Coral View Inn on an old travel forum. It was affordable, available, and close to the beach. It had that rustic vibe she loved. It was perfect. They checked in just after 8 p.m. on a Friday. The receptionist, a young woman in her 20s with tired eyes, greeted them warmly, but seemed distracted. She handed them a brass key on a faded red keychain. "Room 306, she said. "Top floor, at the end of the hallway. Do you have an elevator?" Aaron asked. The woman shook her head. "Just stairs." "Sorry, they've been meaning to install one for years." The family lugged their bags up 3 flights. The stairwell was dim, with an old water stain running like a crack down the wall. The 3rd floor was eerily silent. Unlike the sounds of muffled TV and chatter they'd heard on the 1st and 2nd floors, Room 36 sat alone at the end of the hallway. Oddly, the hallway lights flickered the closer they got. The door to the room stood slightly open, not wide enough to be alarming, but not properly shut either. Mark pushed it open gently. The room was ... strange. It looked nothing like the brochure pictures. It was smaller, with dim yellow lighting and dated furniture. The wallpaper peeled in several spots. A damp, earthy smell hung in the air, like wet wood left in the dark too long. A window on the far side was bricked in halfway, and instead of the beach view they were promised. They stared down into a shadowy alleyway filled with garbage bins. Still, they were tired and decided to make the best of it that night. As they tried to sleep, Caleb woke up around 2 a.m., screaming, "He's knocking again," he yelled, tears streaking his face. "Who, baby?" Aaron asked, startled. "The man at the window. He knocked and told me to come look outside." Mark checked. The window was sealed shut. They were on the 3rd floor. No fire escape, no way for anyone to knock. They calmed Caleb down and assumed it had been a dream. But the next morning, things felt worse. The bathroom mirror had fogged up completely, as though someone had taken a hot shower, but no one had. The towels were slightly damp, and when Erin brushed her hair, She found a long gray strand knotted into hers. Nor Mark had gray hair at breakfast. They noticed their door number 306 was missing one of the screws holding it to the wood. It hung slightly tilted, and behind the number plate was something ... strange. When Mark peeled it back a bit, he saw that the original number underneath had been 204. Erin marched down to the front desk. Confused and irritated, she asked the manager on duty about their room. "We don't have a room 36," the woman said immediately. "We only have 2 floors. 15 rooms. You're in 204. "No, we're on the 3rd floor," Erin insisted. "Room 36. It's on our key." The woman took the key, examined it, and grew pale. "I don't know where you got this," she whispered. "This isn't our key. This logo's from the old Coral View." Old. The Coral View was rebuilt in '82 after a fire destroyed most of the top floor. They never added it back. Just the 2 levels now. Erin demanded to be shown. The woman escorted her up the stairs. There were only 2 flights, no 3rd floor. The hallway ended at room 215. Confused and shaken, Erin and Mark hurried back up to the room they had stayed in, except it wasn't the same room. Inside, it looked completely different. The carpet was newer. The wallpaper was clean. There was a balcony facing the beach. The TV and microwave were modern, not ancient. It was definitely room 204. Even the door had been repaired and labeled. Erin froze. "This isn't where we slept." Mark didn't argue. He didn't know what was going on, but something had changed, or had always been different. They left that afternoon. As they drove home, they argued about whether they'd hallucinated it. Maybe exhaustion, maybe a weird old room temporarily opened. But Erin couldn't shake the cold. Back home, they developed 3 Polaroids they'd taken of the room. One was a shot of the view from the window the first night, the alley. The strange thing was that alley no longer existed when they checked again in daylight. It was just a blank wall. But what chilled Erin most wasn't the missing alley. It was what was in the photo. Near the bottom corner stood a pale figure in the alley. It looked like a man, tall, too thin, with elongated arms that bent strangely at the elbows. His head was bowed forward, almost as if he were staring at something. In his hand, there appeared to be an old key with a red chain, just like there's 2 weeks later, Erin called the local historical society. In the 1970s, before the fire, the Coral View Inn had a full 3rd floor. That year, a woman named Marjorie Klein a schoolteacher on vacation alone, had checked into room 306. She was found dead in her bathtub after guests on the floor below complained of water dripping through the ceiling. She had drowned, but the tub was empty when they found her. Her eyes were open. Her expression, they said, was like someone who had seen something they couldn't understand. No foul play was found. Her death was ruled a heart attack. After the fire in 1981, the third floor was removed. That room no longer existed, but for one weekend in 2014, it came back, and the Sanders stayed there, even though it had burned away decades ago. Something or someone had opened it again, and the man at the window. Caleb still dreams of him. He calls him the knock-knock man. He says he knocks on windows that shouldn't be there, that he carries keys to rooms that were never meant to be opened again. Asterisk, the Shoreline Bay Inn in Myrtle Beach had always carried an old-world charm. Perched right along the Golden Coastline, it was a favorite among tourists. For its vintage wooden architecture, sea breeze corridors, and the soft lull of ocean waves echoing at night. But beneath its quaint façade, Room 209 held a reputation that management didn't advertise, and longtime staff didn't speak of unless asked directly. In the summer of 2017, a young couple, Amanda and Riley, booked a 5-night stay at the inn as part of a coastal road trip. They were both in their mid-20s, documenting their travels on social media and hoping to unwind near the water. Upon checking in, the front desk receptionist, a quiet woman named Ellen, seemed oddly hesitant before handing them the key to room 209. "You sure you're okay with a corner room?" Ellen asked, eyes flicking up briefly. Amanda nodded. "Why not? Ocean view, right?" Ellen paused for just a second too long before giving a soft, forced smile. "Right. Just let us know if you need anything." Room 209 was tucked at the far end of the second floor. The hallway leading to it was slightly darker than the rest of the inn, as if the bulbs had been dimmed deliberately. The air grew noticeably colder near the room, and a faint, strange smell like seawater mixed with old smoke lingered just outside the door. Amanda opened the door with a chirpy, "Here we go," and stepped in, phone in hand, to vlog their arrival. The room itself was perfectly normal at first glance. 2 twin beds pushed together, large windows facing the ocean, old carpet, and a small TV sitting atop a dresser. But something about the room felt ... stagnant, like the air hadn't been moved in years. No breeze came through the windows, and, despite the warm summer night, the room stayed unnaturally cold. That night, after exploring the boardwalk and returning to the room around midnight, Amanda noticed the mirror above the dresser had fogged slightly, as though someone had breathed on it. She assumed it was due to the hot shower she'd taken, but the bathroom door had been closed the entire time. Still, she wiped it clean and thought nothing of it. The first strange event occurred around 2:30 a.m. Riley woke to the sound of humming. At first, he thought it was Amanda, but she was fast asleep beside him. The humming was faint, almost melodic, like an old lullaby, and it seemed to be coming from the far corner of the room near the window. Riley sat up, heart racing, trying to see through the dimness. The humming stopped abruptly when he turned on the bedside lamp. Nothing was there. The next morning, Amanda found an odd marking scratched into the wooden headboard of her bed. It was a smaller circle with a line through it, and neither she nor Riley had noticed it the night before. When she asked the cleaning staff about it, the woman avoided eye contact and muttered, "That's just the way some rooms are," before quickly walking away. By the third night, Amanda and Riley both began feeling drained. Not just tired, exhausted, like their energy was being siphoned away. Amanda had frequent headaches and began seeing movement in her peripheral vision. A figure, short and still, standing in the corner. Riley started sleep-talking, mumbling phrases in a voice that didn't sound like his. Amanda recorded one of the episodes on her phone. When she played it back the next morning, Riley's voice was layered beneath a second, fainter voice whispering, "Stay. Stay in the room. In the room." The most terrifying moment came on the fourth night. Amanda woke up around 3:15 a.m. to find Riley standing by the window, staring out blankly. His hands were pressed against the glass, and his lips were moving, though no sound came out. Gently touched his shoulder. He spun around and shouted, "Don't let it in," before collapsing to the floor. They checked out immediately the next morning. Later, Amanda tried to research the room's history. After combing through obscure travel forums and a few archived local news articles, she discovered that in 1998, a woman named Jeanette Owens had been found dead in that very room 209. She was a solo traveler, staying for 3 days, and on the final night, she'd apparently barricaded the room from the inside. Her journal, later found in the drawer, contained repeated lines of, "It watches at the window. It hums when I sleep." The room had remained closed for nearly 10 years after, only reopening after renovations in 2009. Since then, several guests had reported cold spots, phantom sounds, and sleep disturbances, but the inn had dismissed the claims as typical old building quirks. To this day, Amanda refuses to stay in beachside hotels. She and Riley ended their trip early, abandoning their vlogging project entirely. She says the scariest part wasn't what they said was how real the fear felt. The room didn't just feel haunted, she later wrote in a private Reddit post. It felt like it wanted to keep us. And if you ever visit Myrtle Beach's quieter outskirts, you might stumble upon the shoreline bay in room 209 still has its ocean view. But the cleaning staff still won't enter it alone. Waikiki Beach is often the picture of paradise. Rolling turquoise waters, golden sand that seems to shimmer in the sunlight, and that ever-present breeze whispering off the Pacific. Every day, tourists from across the world pour into Honolulu to experience that dream. But in 2014, something happened at the Waikiki Sands Hotel that shattered that idyllic illusion and left behind a story locals still speak of in hushed tones, especially on nights when the moon hangs low over the water. The Waikiki Sands was an older hotel, not the most luxurious, but still perched just a block from the beach with a partial ocean view. It was popular with international travelers on a budget, especially students and backpackers. That summer, a young woman named Lillian Cho arrived from South Korea to study marine biology at a nearby university. She had a quiet charm about her, polite, observant, and fond of sketching sea creatures in a little leather-bound notebook. According to hotel staff, she checked in alone on June 10th for a 2-week stay, requesting a higher floor room because she liked the breeze. Her room was on the 9th floor, facing a narrow alley. For the first few days, everything seemed normal. She was seen at the breakfast buffet, browsing the lobby tourist pamphlets, and once or twice sitting at the edge of the hotel pool late at night with her notebook open in her lap. She kept mostly to herself, but never seemed troubled. But on the night of June 14th, Lillian vanished. No one noticed at first. It wasn't until housekeeping tried to clean her room the next morning and found it locked from the inside that something seemed off. The bed was made. Her luggage was untouched. Her wallet was still on the nightstand. The door had the chain lock on from inside, yet she wasn't there. Security was called. They opened the door with a master key and confirmed that the room was empty, but thoroughly locked. The windows didn't open wide enough for a person to exit. No fire escape, no balcony. Surveillance footage showed her entering the elevator at 10:42 p.m. the previous night, wearing a blue hoodie and flip-flops, heading up to her floor. She never came back down. No one else was recorded entering her room that night. Police launched a search immediately. Her passport and phone were found in the room. Her sketchbook was open on the small desk. The last drawing was of a strange sea creature, something between a jellyfish and a human face, with elongated eyes and tentacle-like lines stretching across the page. Written below it, In Korean were the words, "It calls from below." Divers searched the waters off the beach. Flyers went up across Honolulu. Hotel guests were interviewed. But there were no answers, no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. It was as if the young woman had simply ceased to exist within a sealed room. A week later, something even stranger happened. A new guest was placed in Lillian's room. That night, he called the front desk, complaining of a dripping sound, a steady, wet, plopping noise coming from the ceiling above his bed. Maintenance checked it, but found no leaks, no water damage. The guest later reported that he had vivid nightmares of drowning and of someone whispering in his ear in a language he didn't understand. He checked out the next morning and refused to stay another night. Eventually, the room was taken out of rotation entirely. In 2015, a housekeeper confessed that she had seen Lillian one more time, not on the night she vanished, but the morning after. She said she was taking linens to the 9th floor when she saw a girl matching Lillian's description at the end of the hallway, standing completely still, facing the wall. Her skin looked unusually pale, and her hair seemed wet. The housekeeper called out, but the girl didn't turn. She blinked, and she was gone. Some believe Lillian became the victim of a kidnapping, a highly orchestrated one. Though how anyone could have bypassed locks and surveillance remains unexplained. Others whisper of darker things, of something old and unknowable beneath the waves near Waikiki, that her studies in marine biology may have led her to see something she shouldn't have, that the thing she drew, the faceless creature calling from below, wasn't just imagination. To this day, the Waikiki Sands avoids placing guests on the 9th floor unless fully booked. The room 913 remains locked more often than not, and sometimes when the ocean is especially calm and the tides pull further than usual. Beachgoers swear they see something far out in the surf, something that doesn't quite swim but drifts just beneath the surface, watching what really happened to Lillian Cho on that June night may never be known. But in Honolulu, it's become part of the hidden lore, a shadow behind paradise, reminding everyone that even the brightest beaches can have their secrets. The Royal Lagoon Resort in Maui was everything you'd expect from a Hawaiian paradise crystal. Blue water, white sandy beaches, and swaying palms that danced in the island breeze. It catered to wealthy tourists and honeymooners, with its suites offering sweeping ocean views, infinity pools, and open-air spas. In 2014, it gained fame not for its luxury, but for the terrifying account of a family from Oregon who stayed in room 327 during their week-long vacation. The family of John and Melissa Carver, along with their 2 children, Logan, 8, and Kylie, 5, arrived at the resort with nothing but excitement. Their suite, room 327, was located on the third floor of the west wing, facing a serene cove. The balcony opened directly to the sound of gentle surf crashing against volcanic rocks, and the view was picture perfect. The first day went well. The kids ran along the beach, built sandcastles, and feasted on pineapple slices by the pool. But the first strange occurrence happened that night. As John was unpacking their bags, he noticed the suite's built-in stereo system powering on by itself. At first, he assumed it was connected to someone's phone via Bluetooth. But when he walked over, he saw the screen flash on and off, even though nothing was plugged in. He powered it off, shrugged it off, and moved on. Later that night, around 2:43 a.m., Melissa woke up to the sound of whispering. She assumed it was the kids talking in their sleep until she realized both children were fast asleep in the same bed, breathing quietly. The whispers were unintelligible and came from the corner near the balcony door. When she sat up and listened closely, the whispers stopped abruptly. The next morning, while brushing her hair in the bathroom mirror, Melissa noticed something in the reflection: a small, pale handprint smeared on the lower corner of the mirror. It was small, like a child's, but neither Logan nor Kylie had entered the bathroom yet. She wiped it away and didn't mention it to John, thinking maybe it was left over from housekeeping or a stray touch from the kids the night before. On the second night, Logan woke up screaming. He told his parents that a girl with no eyes was standing at the foot of his bed. When they turned on the lights, no one was there. Logan was shaken, but eventually went back to sleep between his parents. The Carvers asked to switch rooms the next morning, but the hotel was fully booked due to a local festival. The front desk manager assured them that room 327 had no prior complaints and offered to send up complimentary treats and new sheets. That evening, the activity escalated. While John and Melissa were enjoying a drink on the balcony, the sliding door slammed shut behind them with a force that cracked the outer pane of glass. Trapped outside, they banged on the glass, calling for their kids to open the door. When Logan finally slid it open, he said, "The lady in white told me not to let you back in yet." Chills ran through Melissa's spine. Logan said it so plainly, like he was reporting what someone told him at the beach. He said she had been sitting in the chair near the door, though there was no chair there, and whispered something he didn't understand. When Melissa asked what else the lady said, Logan just replied, "She said it wasn't your room." That night, Melissa kept all the lights on and barely slept. Around 3:10 a.m., the stereo once again turned on, playing a soft, vintage Hawaiian lullaby. John rushed to pull the plug entirely out of the wall, but the music didn't stop. It continued playing softly for another 10 seconds after being disconnected, slowly fading out like an old record winding down. Melissa noticed Logan standing in the hallway, his small frame silhouetted by the dim bathroom light. "Logan," she called gently. But when the figure turned, it wasn't Logan. The eyes were too hollow, the mouth slightly open, as though caught mid-sentence. Melissa screamed, and the figure vanished into the darkness. By morning, the family checked out early, citing a medical emergency. On their way out, a housekeeper asked them what room they had been in. When they said 327, the woman clutched her necklace and muttered something in Hawaiian. Following their report, the hotel conducted an investigation. A former employee later revealed, anonymously, that in the late 1970s, room 327 had once been used for extended stay guests, and that a woman staying there had drowned her young daughter in the ocean after a psychotic break. Some say she returned to the room afterward, wet and whispering lullabies, cradling something that wasn't there. Guests still report cold spots in the room, unexplained handprints, and the sound of soft whispering near 3 a.m. The hotel doesn't list room 327 on their website anymore. They quietly renumbered it to avoid attention, but if you listen closely, some guests say you can still hear the music playing from a room that shouldn't be there. Asterisk, Key West is a dreamy place by day, a sun-soaked paradise where tourists sip margaritas under swaying palms. But when night falls, this southernmost tip of the continental United States seems to hold secrets older than its salty sea breeze. The 5 Beaches Hotel and Residences, upscale oceanfront resort tucked away from the bustle of Duval Street, has long held a reputation for elegance, but whispers among its long-term staff tell of something else. A guest who never checks out. The building itself is a fusion of modern minimalist design and the skeletal remains of a historic inn that stood on the same land in the 1800s. Locals say that back then, during yellow fever outbreaks, the inn was used as a makeshift quarantine site. Dozens died there, locked in their rooms, waiting for help that never came. The walls were repainted, the balconies refurbished, and the foundation reinforced, but some stories cling like salt to wood, never really washing away. In August 2019, a newlywed couple from Colorado, Megan and Liam Foster, checked into the 5 Beaches for their honeymoon. They had booked a corner ocean suite room, 407, known for its wide balcony and uninterrupted view of the Atlantic. Everything was perfect, Megan had said in her online review a few days later. The sunset, the champagne on arrival, the soft cotton robes. But in between her glowing praise was one strange line. There was an old man who kept waving to us from the balcony next door. No one else saw him. He never said anything. That note sparked the interest of a hotel staffer named Jonah, who had been working night security at the 5 Beaches for nearly a decade. Jonah had heard of room 409, the suite next to the Fosters, but she knew it had been under renovation since June and was completely vacant. Or at least it was supposed to be. Joan pulled the CCTV logs for the nights. Megan and Liam stayed. At first, nothing stood out. The couple went to the pool, returned to their room, ordered room service, and sometimes sat outside late into the evening. But on the third night at exactly 3:41 a.m., Jonah paused the feed. There was movement. A shadow passing by the sliding glass door of room 409. Joanna rewound and played again. The shape was faint, almost like it was part of the light itself. Silhouette, hunched slightly forward, with arms held stiffly to its sides. She adjusted the contrast. When the light from the hallway hit the balcony, she saw it just for a second. Someone, something, was leaning on the railing of room 409's balcony. But here's where it gets stranger. The balcony had no furniture, and the door was locked from the inside, according to maintenance. Yet, the figure lingered every night for 3 nights in a row. At the exact same time, 3:41 a.m., curious, Jonah decided to check room 409 personally. She went in during the day, flashlight in hand, despite the bright sunlight outside. The room smelled slightly of mildew, common for oceanfront units in constant humidity. But near the balcony door, she noticed something odd, thin streaks along the glass, like handprints dragged down from head height. Not fingerprints exactly, more like the suggestion of someone pressing forward slowly, like they were trying to pass through the glass. Joanna didn't report it officially, fearing it would be written off as paranoia or mischief. But she did share the experience with 2 other staffers during an overnight shift. One of them, Carlos, turned pale and said quietly, "They told me that same room. Someone jumped from that balcony years ago. But when they got down there, no body was found. Just a pair of sandals and a shattered glass of red wine." That story sent chills down Joanna's spine. She went back into the maintenance logs. Sure enough, in 2006, there had been an incident in room 409. A guest had called security in a panic, claiming they saw someone fall from the balcony. But no record of a death, no police report, just a line item: noise complaint, resolved, no. injuries. More recently, a housekeeper had refused to enter room 409 altogether. She claimed she saw someone standing inside the locked bathroom mirror. Man with wet, sea-slicked hair, who stared without blinking, then simply vanished. Back in Colorado, Megan Foster, now expecting her first child, had reached out to the hotel again. She asked for a copy of the room photo from their stay one they had taken on their last night, standing on the balcony together. When the hotel sent it over, Megan zoomed in. Over her left shoulder, behind the glass of room 409's balcony, stood the outline of a man. He wore a long, water-stained suit. His hands were by his sides. His face was blurred, not by motion, but by something else, almost as if the lens refused to focus on him. Megan never replied after that, today. The Five Beaches Hotel still rents room 409. Room 409, however, remains under extended maintenance, according to the front desk. Though no work crews are ever seen there, if you ask the night staff privately, they'll say, "We don't go near that balcony anymore. The man out there doesn't wave now. He waits and he watches." Just one of the cleaning girls said. She saw him smile, and that was enough, because in Key West, the sea is not the only thing that returns again and again. Sometimes the dead come back too, looking for company, looking for someone to fall. Cape Cod's Ocean Edge Resort in Brewster is known for its elegant Victorian-style mansion, whispering pine trees, and its view of the Atlantic where sky and sea blend into endless blue. But in the summer of 2003, its name became whispered in hushed tones for an entirely different reason. Something happened in room 327, something the resort no longer speaks about, and something that has never been fully explained. It was the 4th of July weekend, and families were pouring into the resort to celebrate with bonfires, clam bakes, and fireworks over the water. Among them was the Winslow family from Vermont, Mark and Jenna, and their 6-year-old daughter, Emily. They had chosen the ocean edge for its family-friendly atmosphere and sprawling beachfront. The Winslows checked into room 327, a corner suite on the 3rd floor of the mansion's east wing, overlooking a dense copse of pine trees that led down to the beach trail. Everything seemed perfect. Low-key, Emily was shy but polite, always holding her stuffed rabbit close. On the night of July 3rd, the family attended a cookout on the main lawn. They left around 8:30 p.m. and were last seen walking back up the path toward the mansion as the sun disappeared behind the trees. What happened after that remains one of the most unsettling mysteries on Cape Cod. The next morning, when room service arrived with breakfast, there was no answer at the door. After 2 more attempts and a failed phone call, security was sent to do a wellness check. What they found in room 327 has never been officially disclosed in full detail, but fragments of witness testimony from resort staff and early responding officers paint a chilling picture. The room was unlocked. The bed was rumpled but untouched. Emily's stuffed rabbit lay on the floor, its ear torn. The window overlooking the trees was wide open, though the screen was intact. The entire Winslow family was gone. No signs of struggle, no luggage missing, no footprints, no forced entry, nothing. It was as if they had stepped out for ice cream and never came back. Except they never arrived at any of the nearby shops. Nor were they spotted on security footage past 9 p.m. Asterisk. Even stranger were the logs from the front desk. There was no record of the family ever checking out. Their car remained parked in the guest lot. Security footage was blurry, limited, and recorded over within 24 hours due to outdated systems at the time. The Brewster Police Department launched an intensive search. Helicopters scanned the surrounding woods. Divers combed nearby ponds. And cadaver dogs were brought in. Nothing. Not a scrap of clothing. Not a hair. It was as if the Winslows had evaporated, but the strangeness didn't stop there. In the following weeks, 3 housekeeping staff reported seeing a young girl with dark blonde hair and a stuffed animal walking the 3rd-floor hallway near 2227 in the early hours of the morning. They assumed she was a guest until one of them noticed she always disappeared at the corner where the hallway meets the emergency exit. They would turn the corner and she would be gone. One staff member even swore she heard giggling in the hallway after midnight, followed by the faint whisper of a child saying, "Follow me into the trees." The staffer quit the next day and refused to return to the resort. Room 327 was quietly closed off for renovations and remained unavailable for years. Some guests still claim to see flickering lights coming from inside it at odd hours, or to feel cold drafts while walking past the door, even in the middle of humid July nights in 2006. A psychic medium from nearby Provincetown requested to conduct a spiritual reading on the grounds after hearing rumors from a former employee. She claimed the room was a thin place, a location where the boundary between our world and something else was unusually fragile. She said she could feel the impression of a child, playful but confused, as if caught between places, calling out for her parents from a place just beyond reach. The Winslows were never found. No bodies, no clues, No financial activity on their accounts. No sightings. Jenna's sister, who remained in contact with investigators, eventually had the family declared legally deceased in 2010. But even she admitted that it didn't feel like a crime, it felt like a vanishing. They were just gone, she told a local paper. Like they walked into the woods and into a different world. The Ocean Edge Resort still stands today, pristine and full of charm. Room 327 is back in rotation, repainted and refurnished. But longtime employees say they always knock first before entering. Some still leave a light on at night, just in case little Emily wants to find her way back. And every now and then, a guest will ask the front desk a curious question. Do the kids upstairs play in the hallway all night? Because even now, decades later, people still hear soft footsteps and a child's voice at the edge of sleep, whispering just loud enough to follow.